Okay. My name's Corby Roberts, and I grew up in Cleveland Heights. I'm currently, I'm with the trustee of the Cleveland Heights Historical Society. I live at 3390 Clayton in Shaker Heights currently. The rest of my family lives in Cleveland Heights. And do I just go ahead and give my little talk? Okay. So I'm here.
So if you'd like to take off your mask while you're speaking, you may.
Okay, so I'm really here representing the citizens of not only Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights, but the citizens of the region who have a great concern that one of our great parks with two great Shaker lakes are in danger of being obliterated. And so we come forward to ask the council. The city of Cleveland Heights owns the upper north third of the Shaker Lakes, and we ask you to do all you can in your behalf to make sure that they remain for the future generations. They span over 200 years of history, starting with the first pioneers who came into the Western Reserve and settled this area and created the first mill pond, the first one at the foot of the lower lake at Coventry and North Park, the second at Lee Road, which is the upper Horseshoe Lake, and then followed by the pioneers. Then they became the mill ponds of the North Union Shakers, the religious society, who were in this area for a full 75 years and assisted the farmers, the farming community of the Heights. And then when the era of the suburbs were issued in, the Shaker Lakes became part of the greater Donebrook Parkland that went from Lake Erie up to the Heights, about a stretch of about 8 miles. And the city of Cleveland acquired them actually from citizens who donated their own personal land, including Gordon, Wade, Rockefeller, Ambler, and then the Continental Development Company up in the Heights, for a gift to the people. At that time, there wasn't enough per capita parkland to serve the health and benefit needs of the public, and they donated that land, and they preserved those lakes, and then built the suburbs around those lakes. The lakes were considered the most beautiful inland lakes of the Cleveland area at the time. And then when the land was transferred to Van Swearingen's and other early suburban developers, they made sure that not only that they preserved those lands, but also they enlisted Ernest Bowditch, who was a nationally acclaimed landscape architect, to design those parklands with its sweeping streets and beautiful vistas that we still enjoy today. Those lakes have for 200 years serviced the wildlife. They've been Audubon Bird Sanctuary. They are not bad environmentally at all. We have a concern now because what our big sewer utility, they use the parklands. They need it for their stormwater drainage, and although they have their own individual goals because they look at the land as in their sewer usages, because of course the water drains from the land into the natural watershed, a lot of people don't realize that the creek doesn't flow naturally anymore, but it actually takes in stormwater and wastewater in many cases from the neighborhoods around it. So because of their use of the Donebrook, really, the sewer district has a fiduciary responsibility to contribute to that site, and also to honor that the Shaker Lakes are a federally protected historic site, and it is their obligation to work around those historic sites that have been kept for the people and for the benefit of the children who need to learn that we all are the benefit of the history that came before us. And instead, using the money that the citizens pay for their sewer fees, there's been a campaign to talk about how dangerous the lake is, when in fact, not only has it been drained, but it's been secured. So really, there's no rush to send it through and make a vote, but rather to give the people the chance to find additional funding if necessary to maintain the historic dam and the beautiful lake that people have used and appreciated for nearly 200 years in this area. And once they go, they're totally irreplaceable. And the Donebrook Parkland, which once had many, many lakes, the lakes have been piecemeal removed from the people. And these are really two of just a few remaining lakes. And you can imagine, think of the museum, the Art Museum Lagoon. You know, that's the kind of the same thing. Can you imagine what University Circle would be if they were told, well, it doesn't have commercial value, therefore it doesn't have any value, and it's just cheaper to replace it with some trickling streams. That's the idea where I'm going to. And I just appeal to council, even though it's maintaining these parklands is expensive, there are alternatives for funding. And if you would just give us time and look for other alternatives, now that the dam has been secured at this point, we would like to keep that lake for all the children who grew up around it, all the neighborhood that appreciates its beauty, and all the other wildlife that depends on that, and the natural areas for the health and benefit of the Cleveland area and the region, because it is open to all the region. It's not just for Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights citizens, but people from all over the greater Cleveland area, and really visitors from all over the world come to see those lakes. And it's been a really heartbreak to everybody, because the promise that we would have a parkland for all time for all the people, which it says right clearly on the deeds, has really not been kept. So all we ask is, even in these financial times, that you give us time to look for solutions to keep that lake and not let it be defined as only a sewer, because it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else from this section would like to speak to that? Then, in the purple, you'll be next. Okay.
And I'd like to ask the council, may I also read a statement on this topic from a neighbor who can't come tonight? Okay. My name is Penny Allen, 3118 Edge Hill in Cleveland Heights. There's been a disturbing trend in this country with government moving farther and farther from doing the will of the people by methods from gerrymandering to making backroom real estate deals, but I expect our wonderful city to be better than that. I urge the council not to rubber stamp the NEORSD plan to destroy Horseshoe Lake, which citizens love and want to save. Reject the catch-22 choices that the sewer district and its enablers have laid out to keep this gem with public funds the cities just don't have, or to sacrifice it based on veiled legal threats, fear-mongering about loss of life, dismissal of the lake's tremendous recreational, historic, and wildlife value, using environmental lies about lack of diversity and the evil nature of dams, diminishment of its egalitarian and abolitionist history, and disregard for its beauty. The choice is not either A or B. I think the city council can be creative and proactive and develop solution C. Take the example from the city of Cleveland, which also has great financial burdens for public safety, ameliorating poverty, fixing crumbling infrastructure, and more. And yet, by partnering with other entities such as ODNR, the Port of Cleveland, Metro Parks, and even the Ohio Department of Transportation, Cleveland is now planning a $300 million lakefront park for recreation and wildlife. And through that collaboration has already gained one conservation grant. And with willingness to do the citizens' bidding, collaboration, and creativity, we can do likewise. Thank you. And I'd also like to read a statement from my neighbor, Mike Modorsky, who lives on Redwood near me, and I'm sorry I don't have his street address, but he's right behind Zagaras. And he would like to say, I urge City Council to delay any vote regarding the plan proposed by NEORSD for Horseshoe Lake. I am a member of the newly formed organization called Friends of Horseshoe Lake, as am I, by the way. We have retained our own independent engineer, TRC, which is a local Cleveland firm, TRC is tasked to explore solutions that would satisfy the concerns of public safety and stormwater management while retaining Horseshoe Lake. We would hope the council would delay this vote until TRC has completed their study and we can examine any new proposal with the council and citizens of Cleveland Heights and Shaker Heights and with the sewer district. The sewer district is now breaching the dam at Horseshoe Lake, which will negate any danger from a dam collapse. Therefore, there's no justification for speeding through a vote when there is so much still to learn about the current conditions and future proposals. We all know that the Shaker Lakes were threatened 50 years ago, and both Lower Lake and Horseshoe Lake would not exist today if not for concerned citizens who organized and did not allow a proposal to go forward without exploring an alternative. Horseshoe Lake is an amenity that Cleveland Heights citizens value tremendously, and future citizens will thank us for being prudent, forgive me, for being prudent about a decision that is irrevocable. I hope you will delay the vote until further alternatives are fully explored and discussed. And that, I do have his address, Michael Medorsky at 3154 Redwood. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
My name is Christine Heggie. I live at 3264 East Monmouth Road, 44118.
Can you get closer to the microphone?
Oh, is that better? Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll be making some comments on the Horseshoe Lake resolution being voted on by council members next week. I'd like to thank Melody Hart for asking the tough questions last Monday in the discussion concerning Gannett Fleming's interim report regarding their independent assessment of Horseshoe Lake. I greatly appreciate Ms. Hart as well as other council members whose willingness to represent the views of residents who express their support for the preservation of Horseshoe Lake. I therefore strongly support any proactive language for the preservation of Horseshoe Lake to be included in the resolution on Horseshoe Lake being voted on by council members next week. I would also like to follow up with some concerns regarding public discussions about Horseshoe Lake to date. Curiously, most of the discussion last week was with the sewer district, without much participation from the Gannett Fleming firm to whom the public's questions were addressed. In fact, only 2 out of 17 questions from the public were addressed during the meeting, again, mostly by the sewer district, with very little, if any, input from Gannett Fleming. Consequently, I continue to be concerned about the dominant role the sewer district plays in discussions about the future of Horseshoe Lake. While the sewer district repeatedly claims to be transparent and receptive to citizens' input and concerns, its overrepresentation during the council meeting last week demonstrates otherwise, and reflects the sewer district's pervasive influence over public discussions about Horseshoe Lake. Alternative narratives and priorities expressed by constituents are frequently dismissed or even omitted from the conversation, as we observed last week when most of the public's submitted questions were not included in the discussion. Rather, public discussions have consistently been a one-way conversation with the sewer district. Little, if any, consideration or exploration is given to constituent voices that support, little, if any, consideration or exploration is given to constituent voices that support the value Horseshoe Lake offers our community and who advocate for its preservation. This practice of omitting alternative views, This practice of omitting alternative views misleads the public to believe most constituents are in agreement with the sewer district's decisions, which is clearly not the case. To conclude, I encourage our community to continue to explore available alternatives that would provide the necessary safety at Horseshoe Lake while supporting its preservation. It is disheartening to see the expressed views of some community members overlooked. As a person who was raised in Cleveland Heights and has lived here most of her life, I have always thought this community to be collaborative, where all views matter and all respectfully included in important decisions about the future of our city. I express this view in the hopes that going forward, we can work more cohesively as a community to reflect the wishes of all its members and prioritize the preferences of those who live, work, and play in our neighborhoods over external, influential, and seemingly self-interested entities. Thank you for allowing me to share my concerns with you today.
Thank you.
Okay.
We go to this section. No one else over there? Okay, so. Yes, sir.
Nope. Hello. My name's Alan Fetterman. I'm at 3268 Euclid Heights Boulevard, lifelong Cleveland Heights resident. And I sent all the members of council a petition that I had put up on Nextdoor. Last week I sent it to you about the idea of having an ordinance for the city that would mandate that the restaurants and bars be required to see a person's proof of vaccine in order to admit them. And so I'm here to make a kind of a case for that, at least to get it on the agenda, and to answer, hopefully, the question about whether something like that would be symbolic. Would it be just a pain in the neck for restaurants and not really accomplish anything, or whether it could actually make a difference? So I made a little chart. First, I'd like to say that in the Cleveland metro area, from the New York Times today, the per capita number of cases of COVID in Cleveland has gone up 74% in the last 2 weeks. So, and that is a continuation of a trend that's been going on for a couple of months. So it is surging here. So I'd like to show you a little graph that indicates something about the nature of this, and let me step away from that. These are the daily cases per 100,000 for the metro areas of various cities. Cleveland, 42 per 100,000. Detroit, 45. Minneapolis-St. Paul, 64. Pittsburgh, 44. And then I grouped 4 other cities, all of them from the south. Birmingham, 9 per 100,000. Atlanta, 9. Nashville, 15. And Dallas, 9. So something is going on clearly in terms of geography. It's getting colder. When it gets colder, people are forced indoors. Because I can tell you that at least 3 of the 4 of these cities have much lower rates of vaccination than do all 4 of the northern cities. So people's patterns of movement have changed, and they're more indoors, causing more cases. But there's another factor that's going on here. So I've grouped 4 different groups. One is New York City, which has a rate of 13 per 100,000. New York State, 27, I'm sorry. Philadelphia has 21. Pittsburgh, 44. Los Angeles, 11. San Diego, 19. San Francisco, 9. Sacramento, 17. So you can see it's over double for the top, for the bottom cities or locations as they are in the top. And of course the difference is that New York City, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, they all have ordinances mandating vaccines for bars and restaurants. You might say, well, what's the vaccination rates difference? And I can tell you that New York City, with its high density, has less of a vaccine rate than New York State. So it's the opposite of what you would think normally. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are almost the same. There's about a 5-point difference. Los Angeles and San Francisco are pretty high in vaccines compared to these other cities. But we've seen already, it's not...
If I could, there is a handheld mic right behind you.
Oh,
If
okay.
you would use that.
Okay.
That would allow the people, it's on the stand.
Yeah, I see it. I'm just getting some water.
The people who are watching online will be able to hear you.
Okay, thank you.
They might not.
Hello? I don't know how to turn it on. Oh, okay. All right, so as we've seen, it's not so much, what's causing the surge is not so much the vaccination rates, it's where people are going. And now the question is are restaurants and bars what are driving this or something else? I also sent you last week a link to an article that was it was on NPR about a year ago, and it described a study by the CDC. And what they did was they took about 300 people who had been tested for COVID, and about half of them tested positive and half of them tested negative. They interviewed these people about their whereabouts in the previous 2 weeks. And they found that the numbers of the times that people went to places like hair salons, shopping, barber shops, and even in-home gatherings was pretty much the same with both groups. The only difference was that people who had gone to restaurants within 14 days of the test, who tested positive, there was a double the rate of COVID. So if you look at the numbers here, you can see that places that have mandates are half as likely to have COVID incidents than the places that don't. So clearly, restaurants and bars are what are driving the surge. So, what I'd like to say kind of in conclusion is that the state of Ohio is not, we all pretty much can be assured, is not going to do anything about this. So what's Cleveland Heights? What can we do? And the answer is that the Cleveland Heights that I know and grew up with was a progressive city. And I think we still have some of that. But I think we can come back and be a leader. I think we can, by passing a legislation like this, we would demonstrate to other cities in this area at least what can be done. We would make, not only would we establish ourselves as a progressive leader, but I think doing so would actually reduce the number of cases and save a lot of people from long and short-term COVID, maybe even save some lives. I think something like this, we're in a crisis, and I think it deserves to at least be carefully considered by council. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else in this area here? Okay.
We don't have any flow charts, just to let you know. Sal Russo, president of the SID, the Special Improvement District for the Cedar Fairmount location. Also the owner of the Heights Medical Building and our family owns a couple other buildings over there. We're on the agenda tonight, and we heard that you guys are going to hopefully approve a microloan we're looking for the SID. I want to share my appreciation for that. Thank you. We really appreciate that. It'll help us just get through this next 6 to 8 months. So thank you. And Myra
And
wants.
we need an emergency legislation.
They are, yeah. I think you guys are going to take a vote today, yeah. Yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Myra
Thank you.
Orenstein, Executive Director of the SID, and also Cleveland Heights resident at 2533 Euclid Heights Boulevard. I just wanted to thank everyone on City Council and also Amy, who isn't here right now, because she was amazing at getting the numbers together, and everybody has been so supportive. We really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the business district. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
To City Council President, Jason Stein, council members, and Cleveland Heights residents. My name is Gwendolyn Solomon, and I have more of a personal concern, but it's possibly something that other citizens and residents have encountered also. My husband and I have been residents of Cleveland Heights for 40 years and reside on Boynton Road. We found the city when we initially moved here in the area to be very scenic, pleasant, and offer suitable community services. There are a wide variety of styles of homes and well-maintained areas. As homeowners, we always put forth effort to properly maintain our residence. Several years ago, the city planted a lovely tree on our tree lawn in front of our home. Over the years, the tree has grown and produced large roots, and we were initially instructed to not trim that tree or touch it because it was on city property. The large roots now protrude above ground and under the adjacent sidewalk. In July 2020, we received a notice of code violation from the City of Cleveland Heights Housing Inspection Department to, and I quote, properly level 3 public sidewalk blocks from the drive. The 3 sidewalk blocks are adjacent to the tree planted several years ago by the city. The tree's large roots had grown under the sidewalk and lifted the sidewalk blocks, causing an unlevel and possibly unsafe public sidewalk. As responsible homeowners, we repaired the sidewalk blocks. However, this is probably a temporary solution, as the large roots continue to grow beneath the sidewalk and protrude above the area surrounding the tree. Initially a lovely tree, now the tree appears diseased and possibly covered with moss. And I took some pictures of that, which I can share with the council later. To further reduce damage to the sidewalk blocks, which might present as a safety issue, and eliminate additional charges to me as a homeowner, I'm requesting review of this issue by the proper sources, and this is why I'm here, to find out what is my next step. We want the ultimate removal of the tree and its roots at no cost by the responsible party, which to me would be the City of Cleveland Heights, since we were instructed initially to not touch that tree or to trim it. So I'm requesting that the city remove the tree and its roots at no cost to me as a homeowner. Thank you.
If you could come by and give me your name and phone number now, I will be sure that the right people approach this issue and take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is anyone else in this area? Anyone over here? Okay, this side. Okay, sir.
I'm John Fleshen. I live on Cedar Brook And I'd like to say welcome to all these nice folks that are here tonight and our new council member. And I'd also like to thank Eric for setting up all the meetings this week. In case anybody hasn't figured it out yet or seen the postings on it, there are meetings this week regarding the Meadowbrook, Cedarbrook, Cedar Lee development. And of course, I brought a visual aid tonight. This is a red maple. It's easy to say it's a red maple this time of year. And I would like to, I remember years driving on my way to teach at Roxborough that there was one house that had a beautiful red maple, and every fall I enjoyed just driving past it on the way to work. I would like to try to save the red maples that are near my house and between Cedarbrook and the parking garage. And I've kind of said this a few times before. I could, see that you guys already know what I'm talking about. The other thing is that on this development, I would like to see some numbers on the drawings, not just some nice cartoon type of drawings of what they're going to build. I can figure out what some of the corners are going to go and this kind of thing. And my friend who has an MBA says that we should be looking at some study of return on investment on this. I'm going to guess that you guys are probably thinking along these lines already, and certainly put some real dimensions on the plans and let us all take a look at them before the final decision is made on this project. And I'd like to thank you guys very much for putting up with me. Take care now.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak?
Hello, my name is Sharice McGregor. I'm at 3782 Parkdale Road. You can finally put a face to the name because I think I sent a lot of emails during the pandemic. I had a house fire next door to me at 3786 Parkdale Road. The house should have been torn down. However, it wasn't. The homeowners didn't have insurance, and an investor purchased the house. Well, that was last year. Fast forward to this year, there's nothing that I can do about it because they sold the house. But what is the protocol for the city to determine that whether or not the house being torn down? Because the house was a nuisance, and it sat next to me for 18 months as an eyesore. Everybody coming down the street, taking pictures, looking at the house, congregating. And I had sent correspondence through email with council before Tanisha Bailey left. It was a nuisance. The house was going to get torn down. Somebody intervened, preserving, so they can sell it to an investor to come and get this house. But the house has been nothing but trouble since it's been there. And the investor finally got it. I had a window broken out of my house from the people cleaning the property, and now in the backyard it's a bunch of trash. So every day I'm coming out my house and I gotta see it, and I'm tired of looking at it. I had contacted the building inspector before they sold the house, but I'm a taxpayer, I live next door, and I'm tired of it. So houses that were in better condition than the house next door to me get torn down by the city very quickly. But that house sat next to me for 18 months as an eyesore. And it was a total nightmare the night of that fire.
City manager, our housing director's not here, but that's what I usually
If you'd like to come over now, and I'll take more information and follow up on why this proceeded this way.
And
Okay.
what to do going forward.
Oh, I got something else to say. I ain't done. Noble business area. I'm a business owner over in the Noble area. I think they can do more. I know DeVita is fighting for that area to get funding and to beautify that area. And I think that you all should support her over there because Noble and Taylor and those areas has been neglected. This is Cleveland Heights, diversity, bring everything up, not just the Cedar Fairmount, not just Coventry, but bring that back to Noble as well.
Continuing, who else would like to speak? Did I see a hand come up over here? Yeah. Okay, sorry, you're not. Okay.
Hello, I'm Sarah Olson. I proudly bought my very first home here in Cleveland Heights 4 years ago on 3235 Sycamore Road. I'm a real estate agent, so I help people purchase homes in the area as well as investors. And I also am a small business owner. And I also work with exonerating wrongful convictions for the last 15 years. So I'm a very, very busy person. And as you know, I'd hope you know, that Cuyahoga County has one of the highest rates of wrongful convictions in the country. And it's very disturbing. But I'm here tonight to tell you my encounter and my experience with our peace officers this past weekend on Saturday. On Saturday, between my neighbors and I, we had an experience with the peace officers. I felt it was very excessive. They averted due process. They used intimidation. And we were just the citizens that were stuck in the middle of a chase that ended in our backyards. When I went outside, when I heard the sirens coming and I looked out the window, I saw multiple officers running in the sleet with AR-15s. I didn't even know our officers had those. It was terrifying. There is a house next door full of children. When they came running through the backyard, I went out front to help my neighbors, of course, because they were all outside screaming. We had no idea what was going on. We didn't even know a car landed in the backyard. So when I went outside, I saw the officers quickly detain the person driving the car. He never left the vehicle. I went over to my neighbors. I started talking to them. When I turned around, the cops had their ARs pointed at us like we were criminals. The most disturbing part about all of this was after they arrested, I enforced the due process. I enforced them to go get a warrant because they wanted to search a garage. They claimed the driver threw a gun in the garage. I watched the whole thing. He never left the car. He couldn't have. There was no possible way. So I made them get a warrant, of course. Then they tried to get a teenager on the property to write down all our names. Why? We are not part of this incident. It was very terrifying. They kept walking around with their AR-15s. I kept telling them to put them away or put them in the truck. They don't need them anymore. There was nothing going on and it was unnecessary. So for 5 hours, we had to listen to them mocking us, taunting us, and making fun of us because we were scared, because we didn't understand what was going on. And they wouldn't answer us. They talked back. They were disrespectful. They threatened us. When I tried to enter the garage, they told me they were going to arrest me. I cursed at them. They threatened me with a ticket for cursing. The most disturbing part about this, they never wrote an incident report. They were on our property for almost 6 hours. During that 6-hour time frame, almost every single police officer on duty was on our street. During that time frame, literally one street up on Whitehorn, a car was getting stolen 4 houses down that you could see from our backyard, where 7 cops were standing around drinking coffee. They said they needed to watch the garage so we don't tamper with evidence. We have over 10 hours of footage. We have security cameras all around our house, on both our properties, where you can see every last incident, everything they did, and all the intimidation they put on us. Not only did they have the AR-15 point at us adults, there was a 6-year-old child standing next to me. Those are hairline trigger guns that they're running around in our yard acting like militants. I don't understand this. I chose this community because it is progressive. I chose this community because it has parks, it has beauty, it has, diversity. I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, so it was really important for me to be around diversity and in a progressive area. But what I did not anticipate is the experience that I had on Saturday. As a taxpayer in this community, I don't think they should get raises anytime soon. They've only solved 36% of crimes. What are we doing? What is their purpose in our community? How many other people have they done this to and not written an incident report? There is no report on it. It's like they were never even there. But the video shows it. The video shows it. And ironically, I recalled, I haven't slept in 2 days, so I'm very tired because it was very traumatic. And when they finally left and the adrenaline was gone, because I felt like I needed to protect my neighbors because the disgusting things they were saying, they mocked me when the sergeant asked who I was. They said, oh, that's just the white lady next door with the BLM sign. What does that mean? What does that mean? So, my experience I never thought I'd have. As a 40-year-old woman, I was terrified. I'm terrified of the police today from what I experienced. I'm 40 and I'm scared. What are they doing to children? Where are they? They're building trauma in our own community and there's no reports on it. I also recall over the summer, because we have Ring cameras, and Ring cameras in the neighborhoods, you can share incidents up to the cloud. And I recall seeing at 1 o'clock in the morning, a neighbor posted their video because they were terrified to wake up and see cops in their backyard on their video cameras with AR-16 practicing around corners. What were they doing out there? What were they doing? We have the videos. What were they doing? When is it going to stop? What's going to be done to change this? And why is there no policy on AR-15s, but they still have policies up on the website for shotguns? Are they even trained on them? Are they current with their training? Have they got their training certificate for the AR-15s? Why do we need them? Was there a mass shooting I'm unaware of? I'm really curious about that. So I don't know why we spent money on it. I don't know if it was gifts from the federal government. I don't know, but I think they're unnecessary and they're terrifying. They're absolutely terrifying. It was sleeting, one slip, and we could have all been wiped out. And it wasn't just one AR-15, it was multiple. There was over 20 cops on our property that day. The other part that really disturbed me is that one officer went and picked up all the Starbucks carafes, because they close at 2 o'clock now on Mayfield Road. And cops were coming and going all day, picking up cups of coffee like it was a tea party in our backyard. That's very disturbing to me. And I'm not comfortable with how they handle situations. And if it happened to me, how many others out there have they done this to and not reported the incident? There is no report, none. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you.
Right on. The police chief and I will meet with you this week to go over all of this. I am so sorry. I'll bring the videos. Okay. And I need your
My name is Odis Grant. I live at 3732 Northampton Road. Been a resident there about 36 years. Raised 6 kids in the great city of Cleveland Heights, all doing well, graduated, and went to college. I thank the Lord for that. My problem is I've been there these 36 years, and I live at a corner house on Northampton and Quilliams. The curve on my street that I've been trying to get put in is about 1 inch, if that, and most of the way down it's gone. My tree line is only about 1 foot to the sidewalk. I watch little kids going up to Oxford every day. Cars have already jumped that curve, hit the pole, leaned almost over on my house, and they put it back up with another pole, and it stayed there unsightly for about 15 years. They finally removed the one pole. I came up here and talked to the city manager. One promised me they was going to put a curve up. Never happened. Other years I came up and talked to the city manager, and they didn't do anything. I have had my windows at the bottom of my house because a snowplow comes through and I have no curve, and it throws ice up against my house and it's broke my windows twice. First time, the city of Cleveland paid for it. The second time, they denied it. I had to pay for it. And they said, the police that I made a report told me, why don't you just get block windows? So I ended up doing that. But I shouldn't have to. About in the early 90s, they put a small curve up by my driveway. And when they put that new curve up, they put it up about 1 inch. And I asked them, why would you put a curve and not raise it up by 4 inches? They said, well, they got to keep it uniform in the city. So right across from the corner of my house is Bishop Pella's house when he was living here, and his mom used to live there in that house. They actually put a curve up there in front of her property that's 4 inches to 5 inches high, a regular curve. Just went in front of her house, stopped next to the house, which is next door to my neighbor's. They didn't put a curve up. They just stopped it right in front of her house. And my problem with that is, why do certain people able to get a curve? I've been begging for a curve, and I can't get a curve. The city of Cleveland Heights got an ordinance where when I get ready to buy windows for my house, they had to meet a certain standard, which I'm glad they did, and I appreciate that, to keep the neighborhood looking good. But at the same token, I want to know why can I get this curve put up and throughout the city. We just seen the accident that happened on, where the car went through the house, because they said they requested a guardrail. And I just hate that. I said, if I see a little kid get hit on my street, where I'm watching every day, and now that I'm retired, you're going to see a lot of me. So you can put that in the records. Otis Grant will be here at these meetings, and I want to see something done. I pay my taxes. I'm at a corner house. I understand what the lady said about the trees. I had the tree cut down in front of my house, and I had another one put up because I like to continue the look of Cleveland Heights because it's a beautiful city. I'm supporting the Horseshoe Lake folks because we need them lakes because that's a beautiful place. And I like to have my kids and my grandkids, when they come into the city, I like to take them somewhere just like Horseshoe Lake. So I'm in supporting of them, just coming to the meeting just to hear them, and I will be here at more meeting. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, pretty confident tonight, but if you could please notice the manager before you leave and your address. Look into that and look over the history there. That's like a long history we have going back a few city managers, so I'd like to hear what's going on with that. Okay. Was there anyone else that wanted to?
Hi, my name is Cindy Evans, and I live at 1092 Grayton Road. And I'm just concerned because I feel that the city has stopped investing in our neighborhood, especially the Caledonia area. I've been there almost 30 years, and to me, it seems like we have two Cleveland Heights. And we're not treated equally. And I really feel that our area needs to be restored to its former glory. We lack trees. Our tree lines are basically, we don't have any trees. I know everybody's talking about, hey, the trees cause damage. They do over time, but we know the value of trees. Also, we have so many vacant lots, and I know we're going to get homes. I don't know when. I thought they would start back in the summer, but just looking at all the vacant lots, and this past summer, like in August, the city stopped cutting the vacant lots. When I complained, they said, we stopped cutting lawns in August, and I was like, who stops cutting grass in August? What homeowner? And, we had a water line break, and right in front of my house, and the concrete wasn't, I guess someone fixed the water line break, but I want to say the asphalt was still broken. It was like that for 3 months in front of my home. And I feel that if I lived in an affluent part of Cleveland Heights, that wouldn't be tolerated. And it hurts me to see this because, we pay our taxes. We invest in our homes just like everybody else. I got siding. I'm not the only one that got new siding. My neighbors get windows. They keep their houses painted. So we should be taken seriously also. We have the worst Save-A-Lot in Cleveland Heights. It's criminal, and I don't see how that exists. And you know, just looking at the end of my street, there's beautiful condos, and I really feel badly for those residents that have to look across the street at that mess. It's no way I would pay that amount for those condos. They're really nice, and I tell you, the only reason is because the demographics have changed. And I just want our city to start investing in us again. It seems like they pulled out when the demographics when the African Americans moved in and the whites moved out. I'm gonna call it like it is. And I really want to thank Sister DeVita for speaking up for us, because I thought that for a long time, but I never said anything. I just watched it and accepted it. And it wasn't until she started speaking about it and I said, something needs to be done about this. And I'm just tired of our city not taking us seriously. One of the vacant lots have dead trees standing up. And I've emailed 3 people about those trees. And I said, God forbid, if one of those branches fall off and hit someone upside their head, or injure them or kill them, then what? And it just shows that we're not taken seriously. I mean, I think about how nice. I think about Noble, and we have diversity going on. We have the black hair salons, and I'm appreciative of that. But there are other things that we need. We don't even have a fast food restaurant that we can get a cup of coffee before we get on the freeway and go to work. Stuff like that matters. We don't have a pizza shop. We can have so much, but when the demographics change, I just think the city has forgotten about us. And just because many of the people there are older, it doesn't mean that, and they don't complain, it doesn't mean that everything's okay. Please don't take us for granted, because we count too. We really do, and we want nice things. And I'm going to speak out about it as much as I can until we get some of the things that we deserve. Just because we have the 44112 zip code, we still matter. We still matter. And thank you.
And I'm right with her, and I'm around the corner. Yeah.
Was there anyone else that still wanted to speak? Okay. This is the last one? Yeah. And we'll conclude all the comments.
Stuck here. Good evening, my name's Fran Mensch. I want to thank everyone who has helped by signing or by circulating a petition to put on the ballot in May that the city build a park on the 1.07 acres on Lee Road in between Meadowbrook and Tullamore. We now have until November the 29th, and we only need 489 more signatures. So many thanks to all of you who have signed and who have circulated a petition. We people for the park, we believe that what is green stays green. We are not opposed to the development. I would not spend a minute of my time or a dollar of my money, nor subject myself to any of the disrespect I have received from some members of the community in order to stop the development. We only want the park. It's all about the park. Some people have asked us, why are you doing an initiative, or there is some sentiment about citizens doing this. This is something that should be left up to the city, and I'd like to answer that. We started this initiative to put the park on the ballot because we had no choice. Essentially, citizens were excluded from the process, from participating in the development process and asking for the park. Some examples of this include we asked 8 times to put the park on the agenda. I specifically asked Mr. Ungers, he's the chair of the committee. What is it, the community development? What's the name of your committee? I'm sorry, Mr. Ungers. Planning and Development. Thank you so much. Never received a response, were not put on the agenda. From the beginning, city officials spoke about the Flaherty and Collins project as a done deal, and this is a typical tactic. It's gone on for decades, but this is a means of discouraging people from engaging in discussion or participation. People do say to us, so isn't that already decided? Council refused to wait to vote until January, when we would have our new form of elected mayor government. They would fast-track the project. Council passed the memorandum of understanding with Flaherty and Collins as an emergency, and can a $50 million project be an emergency? In addition, there were the issues. They held numerous executive sessions, and this too, I think there were 6 or 8. I'm not sure, but that it also excluded public participation, and essentially, City Council abdicated the political process for the development to the developers, Flaherty and Collins, with whom they, this is written over and over, with whom they are working in partnership. And we did not elect Flaherty and Collins. So anyway, all of that, thank you for bearing with me with that list, but that was to explain why it is that we're doing an initiative. We're fortunate that this is something that we can do according to our city charter. It is, in fact, direct democracy, and you could argue it's the most powerful vote that citizens in Cleveland Heights will have, in that if you elect a representative, they do as they may. It's representative democracy. We've been able to vote on taxes and on school levies, but not directly on a project. We did not vote on Top of the Hill, for Top of the Hill. So we had no choice. So we want the park. We're all about the park and a public square. It, in fact, will be a public square, like the ones that civilization has produced for centuries. There's an historian, maybe millennia, when the first one. Should have looked that up. As Benjamin Franklin created in Philadelphia, New York City has these pocket parks, urban parks, these public squares all over the place. Just as Shaker Heights has built recently a park/public square. And like those of us who are fortunate enough to travel to other countries, to Europe, you see these all over the cities. And Cleveland Heights residents deserve the same good things that those cities have. Cedar Lee Public Square will support and increase the success of anything built in the area, and that includes the development plan for the 4 acres on the surface parking lot, the development plan for the 4 acres of the surface parking lot behind the Cedar Lee Theater. On October 26, 2021, David Holthaus' article was published it's called The Public City, Why Public Spaces Are Essential to Our Physical, Political, and Social Health. A lot of things people have been remarking about. And they quoted public leaders making these statements, which I think do really apply to the Cedar Lee Park Public Square concept. Some of these leaders said, public spaces are essential to democracy. Indeed, they literally belong to people, to the people, to all of us. And public space is for many publics. So Cedar Lee Park, Cedar Lee Public Square will support and increase the success of anything built in that area, as I mentioned. The city believes, and Future Heights believes, in the value of parks. I say that because I read in last week's Sun Press that the city awarded $70,000 in community development block grant funds to Future Heights for the mini park. That is an award. They have an award-winning plan to improve and expand the mini park. There will be wonderful synergy between the two places, between the mini park, and the plan is to go behind the Cedar Lee retail space. So imagine what a creative, chic, and fun space that would be to walk between that mini park and the larger park, and then back. I want to mention just quickly that, again, people feel that the merchants in that SID, in that Special Improvement District on Cedar Lee, are unanimous in their support of the development. That is not true. That was misspoken. I have spoken to several who do believe in the power of the park. They have seen the economic dynamism that comes from people being on the street. And that, so it's not unanimous, nor was, and this I recently was told, nor was the board of Future Heights. Future Heights does not speak with one voice in favor of the development, although it was presented in that way. It is not true that everyone on the board supported that, and that is why, I was told, that is why you'll see this, the signature of the article in the Heights Observer written the way it is. So there's not unanimity there. Lastly, I would ask you to address, there's so many loose ends having to do with Top of the Hill, and I know you haven't signed a development agreement for Meadowbrook Lee, but the three most pressing loose ends are, first, the last time you had a meeting, Jeanette Velez spoke from her heart. She made a public comment about her experience with her home in Tullamore being taken as part of eminent domain for condominiums that were never built. And she has subsequently been told that when property is taken through eminent domain, that it cannot be used for private purposes. It must, in fact, be used for public purposes. So that would be a question about, in fact, that land. Maybe it must be, maybe it fits beautifully in the idea of a park because it can't be used for any private reason. So that, I hope you will check into that loose end. The other loose end, number 2, is the issue with the parking garage at the top of the hill. At a previous city council meeting, Reverend Don King and another resident of Buckingham condominiums, they shared with you the water flowing down through the center of the parking garage there at top of the hill. I've since gone and looked at that myself, and I'd asked Susanna to please go with me and witness this, the water. This is a structural problem. I know both Davida and Melody were concerned about this going on at the parking garage. So I hope you'll answer questions about that and take care of that loose end. And then and remember, Flaherty and Collins, who are building top of the hill, are the same developers who the city is working in partnership with to build Meadowbrook Lee. And finally, the third loose end is the green space, the amount of green space that was promised in top of the hill to the community. Again, there were concerns expressed about that by the people who live in Buckingham. Where is that green space? Is it in fact following the outlines of the contract? And finally, I thank you everybody again for signing the petition. I hope everyone will help us to get across the finish line. We're the last leg there. By signing the petition, or even more importantly, circulating a petition. You can circulate a petition to your family and friends. You don't have to fill out a petition. You can submit just a few names, 5 to 10 names. It's all appreciated. To sign a petition, you can email us at cedarleepark@yahoo.com. And I want to clarify something else. I'd been giving out a phone number. The phone number I gave out was a landline, so if people were trying to text that number, it wouldn't go through. They might have wondered why they didn't get a response. My phone always tells me if a text doesn't go through, but apparently not everybody's does. So thank you so much.
We'll close personal communication from citizens now and move on to the report of the city manager. Please.
I have nothing in particular to report, but I do want the council and the community to know that all of the things that came up this evening, our staff, myself, police chief, we will follow up on every single thing that we brought to council this evening.
Thank you. Moving on to the report of the clerk of council. The manager.
Nothing to report.
Moving on to committee reports. First up is the Public Safety and Health Committee, Councilperson Dodd.
Thank you.